Hello, Spokane, and welcome to EvoReal Talks. I'm Jessica Sy.
I'm Matt Sy. Keeps trying to talk over me.
I know. It's
Welcome
a lifelong pursuit of mine to talk over you. Tonight, I went to, actually this afternoon, I went to the ice ribbon with my son. And it's good to see like those kind of places. I don't know. We've been stuck in quarantine for so many months. You start forgetting
that real life is happening out there.
That there's people doing things. And so it was fun. We went down there and he got to skate, and they got a lot of precautions. You get a short amount of time that you're out there, and they limit the amount of people, and you got to wear your masks. And but boy, he sure had fun being able to do that.
And we have not talked about the ice ribbon yet.
I don't know if we have.
But first of all, Riverfront Park is really coming into its own.
Yeah.
I mean, several years ago, the fountain came in, which is really cool.
I love the fountain.
And they've got a massive, I think the big remodel, I'll call it, project of Spokane's Riverfront Park is still going on. I don't think that it's finished. Mm-hmm. The pavilion, they completely redid everything underneath the pavilion. And we've mentioned the food truck Wednesdays or whatever that they were doing. I don't know if those are even still going on.
I don't know if they are.
And then the ice ribbon. The ice ribbon's been there again for a little bit. But.
Yeah, and when we finished, my son Benson, he saw the lights at the pavilion. He goes, "Oh my gosh, can we drive over there?" I said, "No, actually, you can't really drive over there. But this weekend, I think we'll try and get." Yeah,
that was a big upgrade to the pavilion. So for those that aren't from Spokane and know Spokane's history, the pavilion was a part of the World's Fair in 1974.
That's correct.
And that's where Riverfront Park even came from. It used to be a big rail yard.
Yeah. We won't go into the history of that today, but that would be a fun one to go through. And so it was fun. It was fun to go down there.
Just so the world knows, that Spokane has one of the most amazing and beautiful downtown parks with a river literally flowing through it. River runs through it.
Not only a river flowing through it, but a waterfall that is massive.
Incredible waterfall.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool place.
Even if you're not going to move here, you should come visit.
But here's the one thing I'll say. It was cold. Because I was just sitting on the outside. And
I believe when Benson came in, he's like, "It's not that bad out there."
And I was like, "It is cold if you're not moving around, let me tell you." And I do not, and I repeat, I do not like ice skating. Never have. Had some bad experiences as a kid, and I just do not like it. So I love that other people love it, though.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be doing that.
I hear you. Jessica's not one for cold winter sports in general.
That is the truth. All right, so let's get into our
featured listing.
Yeah, yep. Let's do it.
I'm really excited because today is the first day that we will be featuring a listing in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yes.
Many of you know that we recently expanded our real estate team into North Idaho, and this is our first listing. It is a lot on Coeur d'Alene Lake in Kidd Island Bay. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have a specific address, so it's 15XX, so the last digits haven't been assigned. Kidd Island Road, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 83814. Mm-hmm. It is $160,000 is the list price. What a great, super cool, like this. So, okay,
we actually went there today.
Yeah, we went there, and if you want it, we have an awesome drone video that you can go to our Facebook page and check out, and that'll give you a really good idea of the space and all that's out there. The property, it's in a community. It's in the Kidd Island Bay community. So it's got water, like community water, community sewer. Obviously, the lot has power at the line or the lot line and that kind of stuff. 15 minutes from downtown Coeur d'Alene.
Yep, we timed it today, by the way.
By car, and it is 7 minutes across the lake in a boat.
And you can see that you actually see the Coeur d'Alene resort from the house.
And Tubbs Hill.
Was it from the house or was it from the beach?
It's from the beach.
Yeah.
So this is a secondary lot. And again, so primary, secondary. So primary would be waterfront. Secondary is one removed from waterfront.
Right.
But the really cool thing about this lot is that it has deeded access to, it has 1/64th ownership of the waterfront, even though it's on a secondary lot, and it has dock access.
Shared dock
access.
Three lots.
This particular one. And so really, really what a cool area, but as far as getting a property basically on the lake, a lot to offer there. So I thought it's
offer there.
That wasn't even supposed to be punny, but it was. Okay, so a couple other details about this area. So 15 minutes, as I said, from downtown Coeur d'Alene, but 45 minutes from downtown Spokane. Right. So, I mean, if you just think about this, like where you're located, a 45-minute drive, even if you work in downtown Spokane, that is pretty incredible. Under an hour to get to the Spokane International Airport.
And totally paved all the way there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's fully, like, I mean, when I say year-round access, I'm not like throw it in four-wheel drive and chains on all four of your tires so you can get there, or a snowmobile.
Right.
Like, it's full year-round plowed, paved road to get there. So, really cool. So, somebody could literally live there and work in Spokane. Or for those that have it as a vacation property, you're under an hour from when you land in the Spokane airport to when you get to your vacation home, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
I think we should talk a little bit about Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk a ton about Spokane, but really Coeur d'Alene is...
What do they call it? A bedroom
I was
city?
literally about... No, a bedroom community.
Oh, bedroom
I was
community.
literally about to say that Coeur d'Alene is like the bedroom communities of the larger cities, right? Like Bellevue is to Seattle.
Right.
Coeur d'Alene, again, 45 minutes out of town.
I actually only learned that phrase a couple years ago. And when someone first said it, I was like, I'm sorry, what are you saying? I'm not sure if I should be offended.
What is a bedroom
I'm not
community?
sure if I should be offended by this phrase or not.
Definitely intrigued.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So Coeur d'Alene is a resort town. Yes. Bottom line, there's about little over 50,000.
But from our house to downtown is like what, 30?
No, it's about
45?
We're basically downtown Spokane. It's about 45.
Yeah,
45 minutes.
Yeah.
So 50,000 population, like the people that live there permanently. Some of the really cool stuff, like the restaurants. I mean, there's not a ton. I mean, again, it's a small town, but Crafted.
Crafted's my favorite.
Tap House. Love it. They've got turtle races a couple nights a week.
Yeah.
Like they literally up in the ceiling of the restaurant have this turtle racing track that they lower down at a specific time or maybe a couple of times on certain nights of the week. And then they race the turtles. But the turtles are there the whole time. They're like in their little aquarium, whatever you call that.
I like how he's doing this. Yeah, no, I love their food. It's really, it's very creative and interesting.
And it's a tap house, so they talk about, beer selection. Spokane's kind of, what did Dan say? I think it was just today, like 38 different breweries in Spokane right now.
I don't know.
I know.
I don't keep track of that
Dan
kind
will
of
have to put some stats on the Facebook if you really want that. Wolf Lodge is kind of, I wrote that down. Yes. It's not in Coeur d'Alene proper, but it's probably about 10 minutes. You have to go through
Coeur d'Alene and past Coeur d'Alene.
Like toward Montana.
To get the best steak possibly in the world.
Wolf Lodge is truly an experience.
Yeah,
it's like they come to your table in cowboy hats, and the secret recipe. The secret recipe is that they can literally cook over an open flame, so they have like an applewood like fire.
Yeah, and they tried to do something like that in Spokane, but the restrictions on the burning...
the EPA burning restrictions were too restrictive in Spokane for them to get the same experience.
The same flavor. So they're further out, outside of a city, and they do and their menu is not very big or very varied.
Just pretty much.
I don't even think they have a salad. I don't think they have.
I think they have a salad.
I don't think they have a salad.
I'm gonna look it up.
But the steak is so good.
The Sweetheart. I don't even think I could eat that. It's like a 36 ounce. They just go look at their menu.
He's making stuff up now.
Wolf Lodge in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Go look at their menu.
It's great.
Make a reservation. Give them some money. All right, some other stuff about Coeur d'Alene.
Okay.
The Coeur d'Alene Resort on the lake is pretty cool, but the golf course is also pretty renowned because it has the floating golf green, which a lot of people know. And I found that it was rated by Expedia as the cleanest city in America.
In America?
In America. Cleanest city in America.
Congratulations, Coeur d'Alene.
And in 2015, Google gave it an E-City certification, meaning that it had enough of a infrastructure, like technology infrastructure to be rated at that level, whatever that means. Obviously, it means that you have enough technology and people have access to that.
I see.
To be able to get that, which comes back to one of our earlier episodes where we were talking about why Spokane and thus Coeur d'Alene as a really near community have been poised to have such great success as a real estate market through the COVID pandemic and after the quickest to recover after the COVID pandemic. I mean, Idaho, technically, I think I heard the other day, was the only state in the United States that actually had positive job growth in 2020. And I'm sure our good friends in Boise helped fuel that, if not were the engine behiund that. Boise's been growing and having job growth for probably over a decade now. But so those are some really cool things about Coeur d'Alene. How do they say it in French? Coeur d'Alene. Yeah, whatever.
My aunt and uncle are really good at saying it properly. But it's weird when they say it. I'm like, what are you talking about?
What town?
They don't obviously live around here. So
there is one more thing about the resort town of Coeur d'Alene that is kind of right up your alley.
Okay.
Like, what kind of people come to Coeur d'Alene? Like,
famous people.
More famous people.
Movie stars.
Jessica's like the ultimate starstruck person.
Listen.
She'll like grab me as
I'm not freaking out. I'm not freaking out like right now. However, Tom Hanks walks through that door, you're going to see a different person because I am going to freak out. I mean, I'm kind of cool about it. Okay, so we saw Viggo Mortensen. If you do not know the name Viggo Mortensen,
shame on you.
Shame on you. But if you will know him because he's Aragorn in
the Lord of the Rings.
And I did see him in
Ritzville. Shout out to Ritzville.
And I was as cool as I was really staying calm. And I waited for a little bit, and he was kind of in this little shop area. And I just kind of walked up to him and I said, Mr. Mortensen, I just want to tell you how much I really appreciate your work. I love your work. And that was it. And because he's a very quiet dude, like if you've seen him in interviews, he's very quiet. And so he just kind of looked at me, oh, thank you very much. So, but I was like, I cannot not say something. So I am one of those people that will go up to famous people, but I at least try and like not be like, hey, let me get a selfie. I didn't do that.
So around Coeur d'Alene Lake.
I forgot what we were talking about.
Yeah, that's the whole point of this, is that not just because you're a weirdo when famous people come into the general vicinity. In Coeur d'Alene, it has a draw for vacations, obviously, because of its resort nature. So Kim Kardashian, Kanye West.
Oh, you say those like so flippantly. Now, I would probably freak out. It's not like I really want to meet Kim Kardashian.
Shaq was there.
Okay, I'd be excited to meet Shaq. I should rate these. I should put these in a hierarchy of who would I most like to meet.
Yeah, but what if Kim listens to the show? She might get sad.
I'm sorry, Kim. You would be the lowest on my list.
Oh, Jess, that's just mean. Okay, so how about some people?
Okay,
you can think about it. If you want to rate it, you can rate it. But people that actually live in the community, like on the lake,
all right,
probably huge ass houses. But John Travolta,
yes, I'm kind of aware of that.
Yeah, a lot of people know that. John Elway. Okay. He's actually been there for a while. John Elway was pretty instrumental in the Black Rock project, which is a really, really high-end project on the lake.
Sure. Okay.
There is rumor, and it's not, none of this is confirmed. It's not like I went and looked up the title reports or something.
He didn't knock on their doors. Hey, you still living here?
John, are you there? You don't even know which John I'm talking about. Oprah Winfrey. I have had somebody point out a house that she was supposedly an owner of.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think we would have had more sightings of Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, maybe so.
I have seen her. I did see her in person, remember?
Oh, at Disneyland.
Disneyland. I saw her in person and I was freaking out. I almost touched her.
They shut down all of Main Street. We're like, you know when you go to Disneyland and then everything is being shut down?
And you're like, what's happening? What's happening? We don't need to go. We're not going to tell the whole story.
Of course. You'll let me tell the story and it'll be super truncated. We'll get right to the point.
That's true.
All of a sudden, walking down Main Street is Oprah Winfrey with a big baton, kind of marching to the band, and a bunch of kids following her. And it was
she had brought like a whole like
a school
parade
or something. I don't know.
And it was cool. It was really cool to see her in person.
So all of that,
wow,
circling it back
to Coeur
d'Alene, and to the listing on Kid Island Road that we have. It will be on our Facebook. Check out the drone video. It is a buildable lot, so you could literally build your dream home on the lake in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Love it.
Check it out. 509-62 house, and we can get you more info, or you can just message us on Facebook.
Perfect.
What do you got for us, Jess?
Well,
Wait, is there going to be a history lesson today by chance?
Yeah. So, I think it's now been a couple of weeks. Matt took up a bunch of time, and I thought I was going to have time last week, but I didn't. But we talked about the Great Fire of 1889 in Spokane. And so I'm not going to go into the details of that, but suffice it to say, we had a big fire and it was a big deal. And so I'm going to talk about kind of the aftermath of that and some things that happened in Spokane. So first of all, and I think I said this at the end of the last one, that it was basically 32 square blocks of Spokane that burned to the ground. And it the fire leapt from one building to the next building. And even though they had brick, it wasn't just a bunch of like little shanty kind of, Old West wood. It went up in flames, man. And it was devastating.
It seems like there was an era in the United States and maybe the world where things just burned up.
Yes. Well, and we talked about at the end of the last thing. It's when they started realizing, oh, we got to do something about this. Like we have to have an alarm system for the city. That's where we had, sprinkler systems. And because I think within a year or a very short period of time, San Francisco had their big fire, Seattle had their big fire, and Spokane had their big fire.
What about Chicago? Didn't Chicago have a big fire?
I know they did. I don't know the history of that or when it was, but we had that. We're building all these things. People are having restaurants inside, but you don't have the
Sure. I mean, it's the reality
safety
of where all the codes came from.
Yeah. And which we talked about
last time. We have talked about the complaining of codes, but it keeps people alive, so get over it.
Yeah, and buildings still standing. Okay, so 32 buildings burned to the ground, including all the banks.
Wait, 32 buildings or 32 square blocks?
32 square blocks, including all the banks, all the hotels, the post office, the land office, pretty much all the businesses in downtown south of the river burned to the ground.
Bummer.
They had to call in the guard, the soldiers of the time, to prevent looting because they were concerned that, I mentioned in the last one. Now I'm mentioning things from the last one, but they went the next day to get things out of safes. And as soon as they opened the safes in banks and stuff like that, the contents just spontaneously combusted because it was so hot still. So obviously there were things of that were still valuable downtown. So they had to stop the looting.
Wow.
Almost immediately, Spokane began to rebuild. Like when I say immediately, I mean like the next day things started to get rebuilt and started thinking toward the future. Businesses were set up in tents. So they had just this huge tent city.
Hey, we got some businesses in tents right now.
And not only that, but the funny thing is that it's very true. The insurance, there's this great picture that I found of just a huge building and like these little tables with placards on them of different insurance companies because there were so many insurance companies that had to deal with this fire. Wow. There was a Dutch insurance company that insured a lot of stuff in Spokane. And so anyway, there's just that great picture of all of them. Businesses also came to the aid. All over the country, people started sending bedding, clothes, food, money. It just came pouring into Spokane, just like we do now. Like when there's New Orleans has a hurricane, like the rest of the country says, hey, we need to help them out, which was pretty amazing. And it actually created some controversy at some point because there were some officials that took the stuff off of the train and kept them for themselves. And so they actually got in big trouble. And there was some lasting litigation about that from those folks. Yeah. So that was not a good idea. The Spokane Falls Review, which was the newspaper of the time, did not burn down. So 6 days after the fire, they printed this article, which, in my opinion, was a little...
How is it that the paper company didn't burn down?
It was far enough off of the main drag.
Is it the same building as it is now, do you know?
No, I don't think that it was. I could be wrong about that. I'm not 100% sure, so I apologize for not having that information. But this is great because 6 days after that, they printed this article, which is hilariously exaggerated. So I'm going to read it to you here in a second. But it was basically how people were actually feeling. And they were really just trying to give the residents of Spokane Falls a sense of hope and coming together. And so let me read this article of the day. Nearly every available man was at work clearing away debris to commence excavating for new structures, and teams are hauling it away. Let me move this over so I can be closer to the microphone. More of the walls were blown down yesterday because they still had some parts of buildings that were still standing, right? But they had to get rid of that. The booming of the blasts, together with the sights of soldiers patrolling the city, gives the appearance of war times. This is where some of the exaggeration comes in. The hour of sadness has passed, and everyone is jubilant over the brilliant prospects for the immediate rebuilding of that portion of the city that passed so quickly away in smoke. Of course, the loss sustained by our businessmen is felt keenly, but they say that there is no time for mourning, and their minds are engaged with only the one important thing, that the work of reconstruction. This is great. Real estate is not in the least affected, but on the other hand, has increased in value. This was evidenced by the busy time enjoyed by real estate dealers and by private sales. The record shows that $25,000 worth of property changed hands yesterday. But this doesn't include all the deals, as the instruments were not all filed. I love this. Everyone is jubilant over the brilliant prospects 6 days after the fact.
That's funny.
Pretty fantastic.
And it's really good to know that through the ages, the real estate industry has been able to survive crises.
It sure has, because when buildings fall down,
rebuild them.
Yeah, you have to rebuild them. There was so much work to be done that the city actually adopted a motion that, and this is a quote, any person offered employment and refuses to work be notified to leave the city. So if you were offered work, you didn't take it, they were going to run you out of town. In other words, there's plenty of work to go around.
Wow.
So the debris, you had all this debris, right?
Yeah.
You had all of these blocks that had burned to the ground. The debris was dumped into a large V-shaped gully that fanned out from where the Crescent Court used to be. Now the building that houses the main floor of like Red Robin, Lululemon, Mod Pizza. Okay, that's where the Crescent Court used to be.
Okay.
It fanned out from there. The gully fanned out all the way to the public library building and the Spokane Club.
Okay.
So those buildings are literally built on the debris of the fire of 1889.
Really?
Yeah. I love it.
Interesting. Next time I'm downtown, I'm going to want to look at some of those different levels. Because if you notice, I don't know if you've been in the Spokane Club anytime recently.
No.
But in the Spokane Club, when you come in on the main floor, kind of by the Masonic Temple there, the backside of it is way down.
Exactly.
The level of the building. I'm curious
so
if that's... there's obviously a bank there that goes down to the river, but... Yeah. At what point was that not as level as it is now?
So I believe it's maybe not the main part of that, but the part that's behind it. The part closer to the river.
Closer to the river.
I think so. I didn't see. I had to do all this by trying to figure it out myself by understanding where buildings were, and I don't have a picture of it, so I want to kind of try and go find some of those pictures. So here's some other things that happened that I think are kind of interesting. Fire Station 1, which was located at 418 West 1st, was built after the fire. It was occupied by the end of December. So remember, this happened in August. I believe it's in August. The other two buildings, because the other two firehouses, which really, they were just hose houses, where they didn't even have horses that pulled the hoses. If you remember, the men were the ones that pulled the hoses. But those other two were completely destroyed. So it became the headquarters, and it was abandoned in 1938. But guess what? I drove by it today because it still stands as an abandoned building across the street from Thai on First. I will show it to you. I showed it to Benson. I would love to take a tour of that place. It has been there since 1889.
Wow, that's cool.
Very, very cool. The Crescent Block which was on actually, so the Crescent building actually had moved. So where I went to go eat with my grandmother at the Crescent Court was a different location. So the Crescent Block was on Riverside between Lincoln and Monroe, and it didn't burn down. And there were tons of places moved into there, like literally like the day after this. And you cannot believe how many of them were insurance and real estate businesses that were in the bottom of that. And they opened the day after because they actually had like a store, and they did not raise their prices because they could have, because they were like one of the only, things in town, especially in that area, but they refused to raise their prices to make sure that people could afford the stuff that they had, which I thought was pretty cool. Spokane Hardware was a business that literally 2 weeks after the fire, like they had built this entire 2-story structure. It wasn't completely finished, but they had a sign on it that said open day and night, which is great. Okay. So, several people started to rise to fame, during this time. One of them was, Kirkland Cutter. So, for instance, he is the one who, hold on. He was in the right place at the right time with the right profession because he was an architect, right? And he and his partner, John C. Poets, I believe is how you say it, became some of the leading architects during the Reconstruction. And many of his buildings still stand today. And of course, really it's a tribute to his art, because he wasn't just like, let's just slap it up there, but he had a stamp. A lot of people know when you see a Kirkland Cutter building, it very much feels like him. So let me tell you about another young man. I'm going to finish this with this. Okay.
If we have time, I've got a couple of little things. But I'll let you go.
So there was another young man. He was 20 years old who had just arrived in Spokane Falls 5 months before this. Okay. He had gotten a job at the Pride of Spokane restaurant and had just prior to the fire acquired the restaurant. And then it promptly burned down during the fire. So this guy had been there 5 months, worked at this restaurant. I think it might have been his uncle's. There was some kind of relationship there. And then after the fire destroyed his restaurant, he opened what was called the Waffle Foundry downtown. And it didn't have a real roof. It had basically a tent roof, but it was a restaurant that served waffles. And that young man was Louis Davenport of the Davenport Hotel fame. Yeah. So he was like, well, I guess we're just going to...
So he went from waffles to hotels.
Yes. We will learn about Davenport at another time. But I love the fact that he was one of those young men that kind of came out of this tragedy. And, lots of people, they call it, they basically say, hey, it was a bad thing that happened, but Spokane is the better for it because we really built a new place that was better and thriving.
I don't remember if we said this in our last recording or not, but it seems like that's just reality of life. Like when bad things happen, you can make good things out of it.
You can.
And a lot of times where we are today is because of a tragedy that someone would have never chosen prior.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
all right. So I thought you had some numbers about Coeur d'Alene.
So let's just, we got a short amount of time here. Let's just jump back. Okay, let's just look at some year-over-year numbers for the Coeur d'Alene, like Kootenai County.
Okay,
so
you don't have a lot of time, so
I'm just
get
going to
through
throw
this,
out
man.
some stuff. So the absorption rate. This is a number that is like months of inventory. Right. Sorry, they call it absorption rate in this report. So in December of 2019, it was 3 months. December of 2020, it was down to just over 1 month. That's a 63% decline.
Right.
The median sales price in that market went up by 17.5% from 19 to 20.
Okay.
That is huge.
Yes.
And then the median days on market didn't drop. They're not nearly as drastic as Spokane, but 15.8% drop in days on market. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're just talking crazy numbers here. Waterfront condos went up 65% at average sale price year over year.
Wow.
That is insane.
Wish I had gotten into that market a few years ago.
And everything else was, any sort of waterfront, primary, secondary, 31%, 35%. And so that's kind of most of the different numbers are in that 30-ish %.
We'll probably talk about Coeur d'Alene again.
Yeah, I think we'll dive into it a little bit
Go
more.
back to it and give a little bit more time to it to make sure that we, don't give it 1 minute at the end here.
I think that's all the time we have for today, though.
Okay.
Everybody, have a great week. We'll talk to you next Saturday.
Bye.
Bye.